They really can't make 3 good episodes in a row, can they? I'm Mediocrity4, and this is my review of RWBY Volume 4, Episode 11, Taking Control. If you haven't seen the episode yet, you may want to before watching this review. I'm of two minds on this episode. It kind of sucks, but its flaws are the same flaws that have plagued the series from the outset. It's 15 minutes long, spread out across 5 points of view, and it still seems padded. But there's a great episode in here somewhere. But we already got that episode with 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Let's start with Cinder. I feel bad for her. Tyrion too. Salem is the overbearing parent who isn't satisfied with anything. She was fine with Cinder at the beginning, but you can see her patience wearing thin. A wise man once said that 90% of the game is half mental. This totally applies to Cinder. She got wrecked by RWBY. Until RWBY is dealt with, there's still going to be part of her that's scared. What this scene was missing was a nightmare sequence where Cinder trips off RWBY, sort of like Yang's dream sequence with Adam earlier this volume. Wow, never thought that parallel would be a thing. And that trepidation has only gotten worse with Tyrion's return. That's why Cinder looks so lost in that scene. It wasn't just the maiden powers. RWBY has become a real threat. She cut off Tyrion's tail and sent him into a psychotic breakdown, which went on entirely too long. I'm all for camp, and Josh Gorell is great and all, but did it really need to go on so long? And let's jump to the end with Team Ranger because nothing happens. The new Clavi looks cool, but if it's so old, I was expecting more spikes. That's still a thing, right? I mean, the Beowulf we see Tyrion maim has spikes, meaning it's older. I don't know, maybe it'll show those spikes when we get the full thing. Also, why in all that is logical did Ren and Nora come in the same gate as RWBY and Jean? Did they seriously go all the way down the mountain, down the road, and into town in the time it took the Grimm to go in a straight line? No wonder they got there just as the Grimm did. Weiss and Yang scenes are both kinda unnecessary. It's good to see Yang give her arm a paint job and replace her lost weapon, and it's also nice to see her have another scene with Tai. Now, as far as the question Tai asks her, there's several possibilities. Whoever she's going to won't be the one she meets up with. She will find her treasure, but it will not be the treasure she seeks. She could also be going after Blake, but I don't know why she would, and editing 101 dictates that this episode implies Yang is actually going to Atlas. Judging by the scowl, I'd say she's going after Raven, but RWBY is more logical. There's no guarantee she'll find Raven, but she knows exactly where RWBY was headed. Now, another possibility is that she's going to Raven because Raven might be closer, and then she's going to ask Raven to help her get RWBY because Raven might owe Summer or something. The Y scene makes no sense. She blasted a hole in her window and summoned the night, so why isn't that part of her escape plan? Why didn't she just take the quickest route to wherever she's going? Why did she have to go directly past her father's office? Why does she eavesdrop? Doesn't she already know all this stuff from episode 2? You can't say she did it to find info on Winter because she already knew about Mistral. Why did Weiss put a glyph on the door? Wasn't this arc building to her joining Ironwood? How does she expect to reach Winter without him? How did Klein still beat her to the library? How did he hear her calling for him? How come we got an entire character arc in Weiss' house, yet she makes no mention of her mother? What does the mother think of all this? Seriously, all of this could have been avoided if she just fastball specialed her way off the grounds where Klein or Ironwood or Winter had a getaway vehicle ready for her. It would also be a lot shorter, better paced, and not as dumb. Speaking of dumb, the fauna subplot makes no sense. I'm not one for beating a dead horse or repeating myself within the same format, but there's a lot of context missing. We simply don't know what Gira knows about the White Fang. So it seems that Sienna Khan was trying to get on Gira's good side. Finnick and Cossack were telling the truth because there's an actual power struggle with Sienna Khan and Adam. But Finnick and Cossack are working with Adam. Gee, I wonder how they'll overthrow. It's also really nice to see Sun and Blake talk things out like healthy people. My issue with the volume as a whole aside, this was the best part of this episode. Blake being garbage was on purpose, and even though we don't get an apology, this is the next best thing. Her reasons for leaving are exactly what we all assumed they were, which is to say it was a stupid reason, and Sun properly calls her out on it. You can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose. Then you have Callie being the best character in this whole plot line. So I'm sensing a parallel between Sun and Blake with Callie and Gira. I feel Blake takes after her dad and Callie was more like Sun. That's why Callie has taken such a liking to Sun. She sees a lot of herself in him, and that's why Gira didn't like him. But real talk. Gira confirmed that it was only Adam's faction of the White Fang that is planning to attack Haven, so why does that equate to all White Fang being evil? And don't get me started on how they got this information. So those are my thoughts. It's not a good episode, but it has a lot more merits than others give it credit for. I'll catch you for the volume finale. Mediocrity out.